We're Laura and Cindy, and you're listening to the Holistic Horsemanship and Husbandry podcast, where we talk about natural horsekeeping and deepening your connection with your horse. I'm Laura, your horse care mentor. I teach natural horse management practices after working with over 200 horses and seeing how current industry standards are compromising the health of the horse.
And I'm Cindy, your horsemanship mentor, offering a proven and unique approach to creating deep connections with your horses from 20 plus years of experience, including working with wild Mustangs. If you enjoy this conversation, please leave us a 5-star review wherever you're listening to us so we can get this podcast into the ears of more passionate horse people.
So today we are going to talk about advocating for your horse and what that looks like, especially in a boarding environment where you don't always have control over everything that's happening to your horse, and what that looks like and how you can advocate. This is something that's really, really important to me because I lost my first horse because I didn't know what to advocate for. I didn't understand that the way that they were being fed was a train wreck and an accident waiting to happen. And I was a victim to it before I saw it was coming. And when I got MJ, my promise to her was, I will always, always advocate for you. And in the last 2 months, I have had to more than I ever have before. And so I'm just going to kind of share what that looked like and give a real life example. So about maybe February of this year, I started looking around at our boarding situation that we were in and realizing that we'd been there 6 years. They'd been very good to us. My chief complaint was always the hay that was fed was not a horse appropriate hay. But I pulled blood on MJ every year. I watched her hooves very carefully. She never had a problem with it. But there were plenty of horses on the property that were struggling with it. And over the years, the quality of the hay had gone down. And it was the same farmer. It wasn't a case of, oh, I'm going to keep finding cheaper hay and finding cheaper hay. It was the source was getting worse. And I think that's probably a farmer's struggle. I want to leave space for the fact that a farmer can't always perfectly control the quality of his hay. He's totally dependent on seasons and fires and pests and all that stuff. But as horse owners, that means we need to be on the lookout and know when we need to switch our source. But the instances of horses getting impaction colics, like more and more horses were struggling on this hay. And I'm kind of watching this. My concern is going up. So about February, I was like, okay, this is tough because we have a great community of people here. But in this current boarding situation, I don't have the control to change this hay. I can't go have an uncomfortable conversation with the hopes that this is going to change. I know this isn't going to change. So I need to start just looking, not in a hurry, but looking around and seeing what else is out there and, putting it out to the universe and asking, where can we go that's going to work better than this for us? The only other time I'd have ever moved a horse, moving is so stressful on horses. I do not like to do it. I do not like jumping from boarding facility to boarding facility because I like this one's arena better, or this one has a nicer watch rack, or I get a flushing toilet. Like those aren't reasons for me to move a horse. But when my horse is showing stress signs, herds are changing out, things are happening, that's a reason to move. So around February, I'm like, show me what's out there. I don't want to be in a hurry. The only other time I'd moved MJ, she was an active injury, and I needed to get her out of the pasture into a large flat paddock, which we didn't have. So I had like 4 days to find a place and move, and it was very high stress. The place that we moved to ended up having a host of issues that I didn't take the time to vet it for because I was under the stress of moving quickly. So I made it very clear to myself, to MJ, to the universe, to everything. We're not doing it this way this time. We're taking our time. We're looking out for this next place for us to land. So that's about February, and I'm trolling Facebook groups, I'm looking online, and as I'm starting to go and see more horses in different areas around me, I'm paying attention, I'm asking questions. What haven't I seen yet? but nothing's really popping, nothing's really happening, and I kind of move on from this. And then in April, my friend, who was also at the barn, who was heavily pregnant, realized that our old barn was not super kid friendly, like very welcoming, never felt like it wasn't okay to have a kid there, but just the way that it was set up. There's training horses all over the place. You have to go through 4 pastures to get to your pasture. Like it's just a little bit difficult to navigate with a baby. And MJ doesn't let anybody come near us going in and out. So that's very easy for me. But her horse was more bottom of the totem pole. And she realized like that was going to be tough. And her horse needs daily meds and it was getting kind of complicated. Her reasons kind of piled up. And she was like, I think I might need to find a new place for him. And I said, me too. So we just started looking together. Went to a few places. I thought I found the perfect place online. The website had all the right words. I thought it was going to be our place. And we went there, and the energy of the woman was just like, I don't actually like doing this, and I wish I hadn't done it.
No.
And that was like an immediate stoppage for us. Like, oh, you want to get out of this? We don't. Okay. So no. So anyway, we're looking, but we're not in a hurry. We tour 4 or 5 places. Nothing happens. As we're driving away from one place that would have been perfect for my friend, but not for MJ. And we wanted to go together, but we weren't married to going together. We were like, if we can end up within a short trailer's distance of each other so we could still ride together, that would be good enough. So she'd found a place that would have worked great for her, but they separated geldings and mares, and the mare pasture was not going to work for MJ. So as we're driving away, we drive past this perfect little barn and perfectly flat pasture right next to it. And I said, oh, what a dream. I want that. That looks amazing. And I'm just spewing words out of my mouth. I'm not really intending anything, but I have to hand it to my friend. She will reach out to anybody and ask them anything.
Such courage.
Yes, great, fearless communicator.
Not afraid of hearing no.
No, yes, that's it. She's not afraid of hearing no. It's beautiful. So she texts the owner of the place we just left and say, hey, what's going on with your neighbor? Do they board horses? And turns out that she had, in fact, started boarding horses because her living room looks out on this big gelding pasture. And 10 years ago, 2 geldings were having a really hard time integrating into that herd. And it wasn't getting better. And it wasn't getting better. And she finally called the neighbor and said, hey, I've got space up here at my property. I can't watch these horses getting their asses kicked anymore. Would their owner and you be amenable to this? I'm just coming up onto my property. And those horses have been up on her property ever since. So we text her and she says, yes. She says, it's been full for many, many years, but it just happens to be open right now. I didn't think it was open because there were 2 horses down there when we called. But it turns out they were just down there temporarily and they go back up. So, okay, amazing. We want to come see the place. And there were some strange red flags. Like she kept saying, I'm going to sell all my horses and get out of horses. I don't want to do this anymore. And then in the same breath saying, but please come. And we'd love to have you. And this would be a perfect place for you and your little kids and your babies, which it would be because it's all double fenced. Like it's the most perfect place. And then she said, I'm going to be out of town for 2 months, but my son's going to take it over. Like, okay, this is all interesting. Like, I'm just like, universe, tell me what to do. I'm trying to stay unattached.
Words, aren't they?
Yes.
Unattached. Difficult.
Because I'm like, I don't want to grasp onto this and ignore all these red flags. But for some reason, I'm getting this intuitive hit that it's going to be okay. So what do I do with this? So we just keep the conversation flowing. We meet the son. Super nice people. They're making all these huge promises. Like, we're going to take all the mats out of the barn and scrape it perfectly flat and put them back in. We're going to rebuild this part of the barn that has some dry rot. All this stuff that would not have stopped me. But I'm like, that's amazing. If you're going to do that for me for the price of $400 a month, that's amazing. I don't know how you're going to make any money, but thank you very much. Well, I think it was general good-heartedness without any look into what it would actually take to come through with these promises. But anyway, we keep the conversation flowing, and then she's like, I want to have this place full before I leave. I don't want my son dealing with move-ins. So it's yours if you want it, but it needs to happen in May. So we said, okay, it's close. We decided at the end of the day, it's close enough to my house that if I had to go and take care of the horses, I could. We're going to give this a shot. And it felt a little bit like jumping off a cliff into the unknown because although our horses weren't in a perfect situation, they were safe and fed and everything was good. But I'm like, I can't keep saying everything is okay-ish because that's what led to losing DT. I have to make a move. And it was a little bit tricky because my friend, heavily pregnant, had her baby and we had to move 2 weeks later. And so I'm like, I just want you to sit in the car with the air conditioning on and hold your baby and we're going to do everything. And that is essentially what we did, but that's still a huge outing for 2 weeks postpartum and the stress and everything. But all along, the giving notice, I was very nervous to give notice at the barn I'd been at for 6 years. But I had to advocate for my horse. I knew it was best for her to leave.
Because you had already done that once and then you came back when she
But
had
before, it was a very clear, like, she's hurt and we can't facilitate her healing here. It was like I'm very sad to be leaving. It wasn't like, I'm leaving because I found something better. And then it wasn't only I'm leaving because I found something better, it was I'm leaving and I'm taking my friend with me. But I had brought in this friend 4 years prior. I was very nervous, but I gave my notice and she was so happy for us and she was so gracious and she was really kind the whole time. I was a little bit nervous, like, is it going to be awkward and uncomfortable and snippy in that 30 days that we're still going to be here for? And it wasn't at all. It was just smooth sailing. Our horses hadn't lived together in the same pasture for 2 years, and we could have separated them, but we didn't really want to have to deal with that when we moved. They walked off the trailer, walked in tandem out on the pasture together, and started grazing in perfect spinal alignment from the moment they got off the trailer at the new place. Now, when we moved, we knew we were subletting this part of the property and owned by the woman across the driveway. And it just so happened that the weekend we moved, she was having a birthday party for her granddaughter and needed to park 40 cars in the pasture, and we were going to put the horses up. So we just happened to meet her the week we moved in, the property owner, even though we had nothing to do with her at that point. She had asked if we could, help make sure it was easy to get cars in and out of the pasture, and we did that. And we set this relationship up with this woman very well from the jump. Our horses moved in, everything was fine, everything was going really well, except none of the promises that were made happened. There was poop from the previous horses still in the paddocks and the stalls, 10 years worth of expired meds and old tack and nasty dirty polo wraps and all this crap in the tack room. So we took out 2 pickup truckloads.
Oh my God.
Yeah, from the barn. And the poop bin full of poop, probably 5 years worth of poop that we're still having to deal with. So there were some bumps in the road, but our horses were thriving instantly and have been thriving the whole time. And so I'm like, I can manage this. Feels a little bit like I'm self-caring while paying a little higher than self-care. We're there about a month, and then all of a sudden, thank goodness for the property owner, she approaches me. Remember, we're paying the people renting, next door neighbors, to rent this space and feed our horses. The property owner, who owes me nothing, I have nothing to do with, it's just a nice lady, comes over and says, I would like you to know that I'm selling the property that your caretakers are living on.
So you were on the owner's property and she owned property next door that she was renting, and they were doing a boarding situation, and now she's selling that, but you're actually on the owner's property.
Correct.
Okay, got it.
Yes. So it's like 2 horse
Wasn't that lucky?
Yes. So it's 2 horse properties next to each other, and her daughter is gone and out of horses and she just wants it to be used. But so she said, I'm a widow. She doesn't want to upkeep 2 big properties, which can you blame her? Absolutely not. I'm selling the house and the property next door. I would really like it if you guys could stay because I don't want to upkeep the pasture and the barn. So if you can stay and take that on, I'd be more than happy to have your horses. I initially was like, yes, I really want to stay. Thank you so much for coming to me and being upfront, because she could have waited for the person who I was doing business with to come back from her vacation in a month and a half, and then I would have only had 2 weeks to figure out what to do with my horses. So everything was like, this is so shaky, but it's still okay. So I go through my panic. I immediately start looking at backup options, but I'm like, I can't go back to where we were, because 1 week after we left our old barn had a hay debacle and had to completely switch all the horses onto straight barley, which is a really bad impaction risk. And multiple horses colicked, a couple ended up in the hospital. Like the universe was literally like, I'm taking you out of here and saving you from this, even though the timing feels a little bit rushed with the baby having arrived and everything was happening.
I don't believe the universe was rescuing you.
Mm.
I believe from watching you through this whole journey and the intimate journey that you and I have been on in our businesses since 2021, I believe that when you a half a year ago, maybe almost a year ago, said, I'm not following my soul purpose.
Mm.
I am switching gears and pursuing my passion for horses and how I can be their advocate and their voice and help them live a happy, healthy life. I think that by you making that decision and holding very, very strong to it through all your discomfort and all the hurdles you've had to jump through to do that, I think the universe is supporting you in every step you take because you are living true to yourself and your purpose.
Yeah.
And I wanted our audience to know that you have done a lot of personal growth and introspection and discomfort and asking really hard questions, and your partner, your husband, the love of your life has been so supportive through all of this because he feels that, like I feel, you are just on fire, authentically following your dreams. So I just wanted to share that with you, that this is not luck. This is you following your path, and the universe is helping you with your path. Ready to unlock true freedom with your horse? Join Unbridled Freedom, our private Facebook group for women on a spiritual journey in horsemanship. We don't fix our horses, we transform ourselves. This is your space to embrace challenges, celebrate victories, and deepen your bond with your horse. If you're ready to lead with wisdom, compassion, and inner peace, join us today. Let's dance with our horses as one. The link is in the show notes below.
And, the undertone of the conversations that we've had on these podcasts a lot lately has been this big manifestation.
Yeah, right?
And like Cindy and I are paralleling in like weird ways. And so as you're saying that, I'm like, but really the universe would have just sent me a horse property by now if it was really giving me my true purpose. Because for gosh sakes, all I've wanted for the last decade is a horse property. And when we moved to California, we thought we were going to get our horse property for $500,000, $600,000. And now we're looking at 1.5 million. And what the hell? But the other night, as I'm leaving the barn, I'm like, maybe with a 1-year-old in tow, having a horse property is not truly what is best for me in this moment. Maybe with a 1-year-old in tow, it's wonderful that someone else is doing the mundane daily required tasks for my horse. But I get to have all the control. I'm getting my cake and eating it too in a very strange way. And we don't get to control. We have to remain unattached. We don't get to control how these manifestations show up for us. And Cindy's rolling her eyes because she's hearing it for herself just as much as I'm hearing it for me.
You mean I can't control this? I know exactly how I want it. Just give it to me now.
And I've carried a chip on my shoulder of like, I can't believe I'm, a decade into owning horses and I don't have a horse property yet. Well, you have a pretty good setup and it happened in a pretty weird way.
You're totally in control of the care of your horse.
Yes.
which is what was so
So
important to you.
like that felt like the urgency was there. Like, yes, would it be an absolute dream to be able to the baby's napping and I have the monitor on and I'm out working a horse in the arena or something. Like that would be amazing. But there was urgency behind I need to make changes to my horse's care and management because I feel like she's going to not age as well, not be as healthy, not be as happy if I can't make these changes. Mostly just feeding her a horse appropriate freaking hay, which if you board in California, you know how difficult that is to find. So here we are. We know we have to now become self-care if we want to stay. The words I want to stay flew out of my mouth. And then I'm walking across the pasture going, how in the hell am I going to do that? I start crunching numbers in my head. I know hay is going to be around $200 a month. I know I'm going to have to pay $150 a month to lease the property. I need to find somebody who can feed these horses twice a day for $200 a month, or it's just going to be not financially feasible for us to stay given the options around us. I ask myself, would I feed these horses twice a day for $200 a month? No, that's so much work. And then I start thinking, well, maybe we could keep on the netted hay and do once a day. Okay, I'm going to just one step in front of the other. Internally, I'm freaking out. I've moved my horse, I've put her through this stressful move, and then I open my eyes and I look at her. She actually hasn't been stressed for more than 10 minutes through this whole move, so maybe that's not a concern, but I feel like I put her through a stressful move and I'm going to have to move her again. Like I'm preparing myself for this to fall apart. It was too good to be true. But the pieces start falling into place. I text the woman who's now being evicted from her home. So I'm trying to be super respectful of that and just be like, hey, I need a little bit of information from you. And then I want to get out of your hair as quickly as possible. But can I have the number of your hay supplier? Turns out that we can get large loads of hay delivered for a very reasonable price. No problem there. It happened in a matter of 10 minutes. I had hay figured out. Then my counterpart, who is boarding with me, who also wants to stay, she puts up on a community page, hey, we need a caretaker. We interview 2 people. They're both amazing. They will both work within our budget for 2 feedings a day and are willing to pick poop and do more if we're out of town. And we picked the first one and now have a backup. So things are starting to feel like, holy cow, boom, bam, boom, falling into place. We're going to be okay. But there are 2 other people boarding on the part of the property that is going to be sold. They have to leave. And so I'm there, and one of the other gals is there. And I'm getting this really strong intuitive hit. You need to go up and talk to her. At this point, I'm still looking at other boarding options, keeping my options open, just being prepared if we have to make a move quickly. And I go up truly out of concern and questioning, what have you found? How can we help? She is seething in anger at me because I get to stay. And she's boarded there for 5 years and we've been here for a month. And how dare I get to stay? And she told me when the person who's we're currently boarding from comes back, that person was going to go to the property owner and fight to have us kicked out.
Oh, no.
And them to get to stay. Now, I do understand frustration about that seniority.
And it's coming from fear.
And it's coming from fear. And later I found out, she just found out 24 hours ago that this was happening. And I'd been processing and figuring stuff out for a whole week. So like I have a little compassion for that. But at the same time, it's a spot for 2 horses. So she would have had to either bring in another horse or pay double. And it sat empty for 2 months before we got there. And she had first rider refusal on it and didn't take it. So like it wasn't like you were passed over for me. It just now in this moment would serve you better now that I'm. And we spent a week cleaning up poop. I put a ton of work in on the fencing. I brought 2 truckloads of I haven't worked my ass off getting the place up and running for the last month for you to skip down and take it from me. But I don't do barn drama. I'm honest, I'm transparent, I say what's on my mind, I work with people, I don't do sneaky, underhanded bullshit. And I'm so glad that I went up there and acted like a little mouse until she exploded on me and told me this because I needed to know to advocate for my horse. But my initial reaction was, I'm out. I don't want to deal with this. I'm traveling in a month. I need to have my horses set up. This is too much. The universe is telling me to go. And I text Cindy, probably a 800-line text of freaking out story. And she comes back and says, Oh, hell no, girlfriend. You put your light globe up and take that property back. So I drive home. I panic, look at three boarding places on my way home. One of them would have worked. One of them is currently my backup. And then I'm like, okay, I can't control who the property owner chooses to rent the property from, but I can control her decision in terms of it was going to be a 2 week delay on this conversation that may or may not have ever happened. And I couldn't wait that 2 weeks. So I get on the phone, I call the property owner. I said, I can't do a bidding war. I'm at the top of my budget to stay. I really want to stay. It's your property and you get to decide, but I just really need you to do me the solid of deciding as soon as possible and not waiting for 2 weeks until this lady gets back from her vacation so that I know if I have to move my horse or not. And immediately she was like, no, I don't know this woman. Like it's yours. I like you. I have a relationship with you. I'm not interested in a bidding war. The property is yours.
Oh, nice.
And the tension just out of my body. Oh, and like stress came down and out of my body. Later that evening, I went back to the barn. I did the energetic practice that Cindy was talking about in terms of putting my energetic globe up around that whole property. Hard edges. Nobody comes through here. Let's pause for a moment. Have you ever looked at your horse and wondered if they're thriving in your care? Is there more you can do to give them the best life possible? Most ranches and boarding facilities are set up for convenience, not horse health, but there's tons you can do to fix your horse's situation if you're willing to get creative. Join Evidence-Based Horsekeeping, my Facebook group where members learn how to improve the mental and physical well-being of their horses. The link is in the show notes.
And that's owning your space through love, not fear.
Yes, it was like this property called us here for a reason. Our horses are so happy here. We deserve this. This is ours. And the really, really unfortunate thing is, if this person would have taken 5 seconds to get to know me, I would have fought to have her horse come down as a third horse. I would love for MJ to have a little bit bigger of a herd. I would love to be splitting all these expenses 3 ways instead of 2 ways. But the way that she approached me was just it's not me versus you. And I don't trust you because I had to wiggle that information out of you. And I can't have that in my community. Once I made that decision, I put up my light globe and I was like, no, we're not going to shrink away from this because it's hard. We're not going to people please and pack up our toys and leave and put our horses in a worse situation because it got uncomfortable. I'm going to fight for my horse because that's what I promised her the day I put her in the trailer and brought her from Idaho to California. And then everything fell into place. And for the first time in a decade of owning horses, I have a barn plugged with beautiful horse quality grass hay. I am able to give my horse the 5 things that I think all horses should have, which is freedom, forage, friends, healthy barefoot feet, and a functioning sound body and mind. And it took me 10 years to be able to get there, but I did it by advocating for my horse even when I was uncomfortable. And I don't know how long I'm going to be able to hold it, and I'm wrestling with that conversation of like, how long is this going to be right for us? And what's it going to look like if it isn't? But right now, it's right for us, and I need to allow myself to relax and enjoy it.
So it's the what if that's getting you a little boogered and bothered.
Yeah.
And when we play the what if game, which we all play it, and isn't it peculiar how the mind always goes to what if negativity?
Totally.
And so what I've been working on personally based on my second book that I'm writing, Where the Hoof Prints Lead, is when I catch myself go, what if negativity, it's an alarm to say, flip the coin. What if positivity?
Right.
And then making a choice of what feels more comfortable and can I choose that comfort? Because, Laura, we're doing the same thing to our horses constantly. Because our horses, we ask them to do something like leave the pasture. What if I'm not coming back?
Right.
What if I'm going somewhere scary? And people are say that's anthropomorphizing, but not really. It could be, very well could be, but in that moment, you're asking them to leave their comfort and their safety and their security.
And really, what you're saying is, what if it's not safe?
Uh-huh.
And the anthropomorphizing might be putting what if it's not safe in a human context, but you're dead on.
Yeah. So I just wanted to kind of throw that out there for all of us to look and chew on because we all do it. Riding, walking, trailering, going to a new place, you know?
Every time I get out of my truck in that 2 seconds it takes to walk from the driver's seat back to see into the trailer, what if my horse is upside down in there?
Yeah. So I guess maybe everybody, what would be fun to take, well, I mean, there's so much in this podcast, but one of the fun things to do is start awakening your awareness to your what ifs and pause and make it a game. Because the more that we can make a game with the stuff that goes through our minds, the more that we can make things a game with our horses. And horses like games, horses don't like work. So make a challenge in your own self to play instead of work on yourself, play with yourself. Instead of work with your horse on a challenge, play with your horse on a challenge. What if I go to this and they say no? Well, what if you go to that and they say, maybe?
Yeah.
So back to your.
We're settled and we're gonna know by the time this podcast comes out. Like right now, we're still under our original agreement and it's changing over on August 1st and our feeder begins. But like I've signed a lease with the property owner. Like I'm feeling my barn's full of hay, my feeder's roaring to go.
It's a done deal.
The only reason it's not a done deal is because of my what if brain, not because of anything solid and real.
And that's normal. That's that part in us that wants, that's that reptilian part of us that wants to protect us.
Yeah. And it's so funny because my what if going before all the drama started was, what if we have to go, what if this doesn't work out? We have to go back where we came from. But then as soon as the barley hay happened, it was like, oh, I'm not going back. Even if I have to go 2 hours, even if I have to go to Cindy's house, put MJ in the backyard, like I will not feed my horse barley hay. And thank goodness I didn't listen to that what if and stay.
Mm-hmm. Wow, there's a lot in this experience that Laura's been through. You know, moving horses is often very stressful for the horse because that's their home. Their herd is their herd. Horses love routine. They find safety and comfort and security in routine. They get in the trailer. We've had this conversation in other episodes, but it's worth revisiting. They get in the trailer out of pure trust because to them, everything about that says no instinctually. And they do it because they trust you. They do it because they've always come back. Well, this time they get in the trailer, they don't come back. They're put somewhere else. Well, okay, no big deal. We've gone to weekend clinics. We've gone to day events. No big deal. Well, then nightfall comes. Where's my herd? Where's my safe tree that I sleep under? Where's my buddy who stands over me while I sleep? So there's that. And we have to think about that. But what's awesome is because of the way that Laura has set it up, because of the way that Laura has a relationship with her horse, and because Laura was okay with this space, it helped MJ. And then Laura also said that they were considering separating the two, giving them time to get familiar with over the fence, which is a very common thing. And when you have horses that have shoes on, that's a good practice to do because they can break a leg and do more damage with shoes on than not. But there's a secret about trailering that not a lot of people know. When you have two horses that don't know each other, or they're struggling to get along, if you take the two of them out of their environment and put them in the trailer together, and go for a ride. By the time you get to the other end and you let them out, they are now bonded as a herd. Now, in all herds, there is an ongoing sorting of who's in charge. I want that hay, so you need to move. That's normal. I mean, I have horses who have been living together for 11 years and they still do that. And one day it's Asha who's in charge, and then the next day it's Apache in charge. And one moment Apache's trying to kick her, and the other moment he's loving on her. So that's normal. But what I have often done with horses that don't get along is I'll load them up in the trailer and we'll go to lunch.
Yeah.
And they'll sit in the trailer underneath a shady tree while we have lunch. And we make sure that the drive to get lunch is 45 minutes away. And by the time we get home, they're buds.
Yeah.
So that's why
And even more so if they pop out in an unfamiliar environment and all of a sudden, like, they hadn't lived together, but they've been on the same property for 4 years, and all of a sudden they were the only familiar faces each other had.
So there's a lot of value in that. We talked about the light bulb, which is just, people talk about your energy bubble, your aura. Your light bulb is your personal space. And typically it's when you span your arms out and do a full circle, that's your light bulb, but you have the power of pulling it in tight when you don't want to be noticed and you don't want that person to approach you, or you just want to get through the grocery store with no issues, or you can expand it to encompass, like Laura did, that whole property. And you do it not from fear.
Yeah. Yeah.
You,
But there can be a healthy edge on it. Like, this is my boundary.
exactly, their boundary.
Like,
Yeah.
and it's strong and I'm gonna hold it. But within it is so much love and goodness. It's not there's not spikes on the edge of it. I'm not gonna bite you, but it's here and it's mine and it's impenetrable because of the amazingness that's going on inside.
Yeah. Oh, and the last thing that I'm going to mention that was in this podcast, that there's so much good information, I hope you guys enjoy it, is what happened when Laura finally said yes to what her heart has been telling her for a very long time was her purpose. But her intellectual mind and society's pressure said no. You went to school, you got a degree, you got to have a real job, you got to go do this, you got to go do that. And she was miserable. So then she was like, okay, I'm going to tweak this. I'm really good at this. And these people in the horse industry that are trying to be successful, they're not good at that. So I'm going to come together and I'm going to do a little bit of my dream and a little bit of what society has groomed me to be. And that worked until it didn't.
Yeah.
And then through the training that she and I have been going through together for the past 4 years, wow.
Yeah, wow.
Has guided us both to being more like, we're really here. We're really here to live our dreams.
Yeah.
Yes, we have to play within the rules of the societal games, but do we really? We can tweak that. We can move that and meld it to, it's our playground, which so many of us don't really understand that concept. And so many of us understand it, but we forget it.
And it's fun to play on the playground when things are going well.
Yes.
You totally forget it's a playground when things get stressful. Like within this, I spent a solid week not sleeping, stress sweating, like I stunk. I was not okay because I knew I was either going to have to give up on my dream or command a level of advocacy and fierceness, hold a higher version of me.
and trust and
And trust and
surrender and
surrender
following the
as that higher powerful
breadcrumbs.
version of me. I had to step up and surrender. And there was a huge internal, and how come you did this? You saw the red flags. And, my friend and I have talked about it now. Like, we both saw the red flags. We talked about the red flags. And in the same sentence, we said, but we're doing it anyway. And we're not those kind of people. We're planners, we're preppers, we follow the rules and we head off issues. And we stepped into this with the red flags because, knock on wood, it has worked out.
So I have a question because we all have those red flags and we take those red flags often as a no. So my curiosity, Laura, with all the work we've done together over the last 4 or 5 years, when you made the decision of we're still moving forward, where did you feel that in your body?
Oh, deep in my heart, my gut.
Your heart and your gut.
And my head was, swirly whirly. But
Yeah.
really, I mean, a lot of the work that Cindy and I have done over the last 5 years is get back in your body and out of your head and find your truth there. And I didn't even have to pause and fight to get there. It was so loud. Like, just keep
That's an interesting thing,
with it.
guys, to play with is
Yeah.
our body is constantly, it's alive. It's constantly talking to us. It's constantly giving us sensations, an ache in the neck, stomach issues, a sore shoulder, a sore leg, or an open, expanded heart. I'm on top of the world, or a solid, like, I don't know how I know this, but I just know that down in your power center, we call our womb space, our gut, that's that place. But our body is always talking to us.
Yeah.
And before an emotion arises, we get the sensation in our body. So when Laura and I say, breathe deep down into your belly and get grounded before you're doing something with your horse or before you're making a decision, that's why. Because the body knows long before the head knows, before the ego, the intellect, that part that has to show up every day in society and make decisions.
Horses are reading our bodies and know the truth in our bodies always, whether we're acknowledging it or not. And that's where your horse will get confused and weird things will happen because they're feeling that your body's saying one thing and then your actions and your mind is saying the other, and I can't get with that.
Or your horse will be kind of mirroring that confusion, in that incongruency that's within you, and you're like, what's wrong with you? You seem like you're ready to move forward, but you just can't take that step. Our horses, we're part of the herd and they trust us. I'm glad that it's working out. What if it works out for years and years until you're ready? Well, I don't know how many years. We don't want to, I don't want to drag that out. What if
Unfortunately, we have to remain unattached to that timeline.
Right? What if it works until you're ready to buy your own place?
That would be amazing.
Right? And how does that feel inside your body?
Just like, oh, we're here. It feels we're here. I've been fighting to be able to take care of my horse the way I want to take care of her since I owned her. And we're here. And there will be no gaps in that. And she will just have all of her needs met forever until I lay her to rest on my gorgeous property where she gets to rest eternally.
And that is so much better than the what if it all falls apart in a month.
Yeah, what if we have to go down the road to the very nice boarding facility? Like, all in all, we would be fine. That's the really funny part about my clenching, scaring what ifs. It's like, it's a pretty good option. They feed a higher percentage of alfalfa than I like, but it's a pretty good option. So even the what if is, we'll be fine. But I don't want to be fine. I want to be stellar, amazing, everything I want.
And why not? That's why we're here. We're not here to sacrifice and settle. All right, guys. If you have any questions about all of this, please remember that you can always comment on our Facebook page, Holistic Horsemanship and Husbandry, and we will be happy to respond back to you.
And I have recently discovered that we have some awesome listeners that came to me through TikTok. So if you're not on Facebook, I'm super happy to receive a message from any social media platform you find either Cindy or I on.
And how do they find you on TikTok?
The Homestead Witch.
Very nice. Everybody, thanks for listening. So if you have any questions about the topics covered in this episode, send us a message on our Facebook page, Holistic Horsemanship and Husbandry, and we will answer your question in a post on our page. You will be anonymous. We'll just take the question and provide our input, and we want to do it on the post so that we can all learn and grow together, because nobody knows everything. Thank you for tuning in to another episode. We want to remind you that we'll be here every second and fourth Tuesday of the month, following the golden rule. Have a plan, but always be willing to be flexible. Don't forget to connect with us using the links in the show notes below.
If you learned something new today, had an aha, or walked away with a valuable nugget, you can say thanks by leaving us a 5-star review on whatever platform you're listening on.